Let's go to London and talk to our UK correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti, joining us via Skype. Jonathan, good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show. Is this diplomatic crisis, Jonathan, getting out of hand? Do you see it spiraling downwards even more?
Well, it's good to be with you, Ami. And so far, I would say that we haven't seen the spiralling. But of course, that's the danger of what Mrs. May is now doing with UK policy. We've seen that she's managed to get the support of America, Germany and France. There's now been that joint statement saying that they also blame Russia for this incident in Salisbury. That's one big achievement for her. But we've now got to see really what Russia does in response. And they've said there will be a response, and they've said it's imminent. But they, as yet, haven't done very much. So let's see what they do next in this complicated game of chess.
That's what I wanted to ask you, basically, because you mentioned the other countries. France already said it would sanction Russia. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, said that the U.S. backs Great Britain. But do you think, does this seem to intimidate Russia at all? Or do you think that this response might be too weak?
Well, in a way, there's very little that seems to intimidate Russia, full stop. And that's why we're in this situation already. Don't forget that similar incident of the killing of Alexander Litvinenko in the UK some years ago was meant to be what provoked Britain to take action to stop this sort of thing happening again. But Litvinenko's widow accused the British of not really taking it seriously enough in the wake of this latest attack, because it took her so long to get the inquiry into her husband's death. And then when she did get it, with the resistance of the UK government, she did in the end get what she wanted, which is a UK judge saying that Russia was behind it, that Putin almost certainly knew about it. Bearing in mind, very similar thing has happened again, but now with an potentially even more deadly chemical. The question is really whether or not anything scares Russia, or whether 8 or 9 or 10 years of them getting away with things across the Western world, whether it's chemical weapons use in Syria, or this in the UK, means that there's not that much that can be done now.
Jonathan, what's the sentiment, in the British media, on the streets in London? Because I saw on my social media feed, for example, some calls to even boycott the World Cup in Russia this summer. Is the British public really that angry right now?
Well, actually, there has been some polling which has asked specifically about the World Cup, and many people rather in that poll were actually in favour of Britain pulling out altogether, not just the removal of official or royal visitors to Russia for the World Cup. But the World Cup, of course, is window dressing. Much of what Mrs. May is suggesting might be seen as that by others, but the expulsion of 23 diplomats is quite a big deal. Mrs. May said that those people are unofficial intelligence operatives from Russia. Does rather beg the question how on earth there were 23 unofficial intelligence operatives acting within the UK with the UK's knowledge so that they could pull this together quite so quickly. But then that's how these things work. Doubtless the UK has unofficial intelligence operatives of its own operating elsewhere in the world through its embassies. The simple matter is that this is one step too far as the UK government is concerned. The use of a military-grade chemical weapon in Europe on British soil is the first time this has been done since the Second World War, according to those countries who issued that joint statement today. And that means that there really does have to be a stern response, because otherwise this could be something which doesn't just happen in Salisbury, but might happen in London and might happen elsewhere, potentially in Paris or anywhere else in the world. And this is what Mrs. May is hoping to impress on other world leaders, that this is as much their problem as it is hers.
Okay, Jonathan Sacerdoti joining us from London. Thank you very much.